So it sounds like you have a pretty firm and concise message, right? But when you think about getting to that point where you have like a solid message, because being in marketing, sometimes we make the mistake of doubling down on a message when it doesn't work, with the assumption that, hey, the market just doesn't get it yet. Now, I would imagine some of the same parallels are true in the public sector when you think about, you know, you assuming that the public's just not getting the message. So how do you fail fast when it comes to messaging? How do you know when it's like, hey, maybe I need to pivot from this? Maybe it's not working. Maybe it's not resonating the way I thought it was going to resonate with folks.
Well, as an elected official, when people are starting to talk about recalls, and they actually start going out and collecting signatures and you're campaigning, that's usually how you get the signal, or if you're getting impeached, we're talking about the president, that's when you're like way off base, but at the end of the day, you run and people cast their vote. You campaign, you try and do the best you can. And, if people either accept you or they don't, but, you're elected to implement the vision that you campaigned on and you kind of have to stick to that, and you can take feedback, but at the end of the day, not everyone is one thing you have to realize, like, is not everyone, and it gets kind of into marketing, like you're always going to have a competing product or someone's like an alternative, like OpenAI has a Claude Anthropic, which one are you going to use? Some people use both.
Yeah.
But like in politics, it's like people might support you on one sort of issue and they might not support you on another one. You're never going to have 100% support. But as long as you're doing the right things and you're advocating for the people, they will see that. And that's kind of like how you have to stick to it. But obviously, if something isn't working, you have to be able to pivot and change and find another. Like, there's always always more than one solution to a problem. And you kind of have to evaluate all your alternatives and try and pick the best one. But and if people aren't liking it, like I said, you won't be reelected. It'll get recalled.